Hello, welcome back. I'm starting over. So if you watched one of my videos at the beginning of the year, I tried to do a self-destruct list where I was going to declutter my bookshelves as I sort of went along, and that wasn't working. So I decided I'm just going to do it all in one go. I am going to sort of do a TBR topple, clearing out the bookshelves, curating my library type of thing in hopefully the least chaotic way possible. Anybody else doubting that's how it's going to go? I definitely am. But I do have a plan. Kind of, sort of. The plan is I'm going to start in the upper left-hand corner, which is my A shelf, and I'm going to go through my shelves all the way to Z because my books are alphabetized by title. And my plan is to get it so that each letter hopefully has its own shelf or set of shelves, and that I'm going to have them all contained within those set of shelves. And the way that I'm going to do that is if there are any books that won't fit in however big an area I decide on for that letter, those books are going to go on my Pingo immediately, and I will hopefully get a chance to read them before I unhaul them. I'm going to start decluttering my books. I'm going to come on here and show you each time as I go through the alphabet all the books that I am willing to let go of because I think they're just not going to suit me as a reader. Enough chatter. Let me get going. I'm going to check in with you and I'm going to show you the books that I'm thinking don't belong. You can help me out by leaving in the comments and letting me know if I'm making a mistake and there's some I should hang on to. And I think that's it. So let me get going. I'll check back in with you in a bit. Okay, I am back for my first check-in, and yeah, books are going to be everywhere. Ignore the books on the back of the couch here. Those are ones that I'm still trying to put up on the shelves. And I have some books that are right here behind me. I'm not going to talk about those in this video because I'm realizing that there are quite a few that I'm going to send off to little free libraries, and I'll probably just do a whole video doing that. So I'm only going to talk about the ones that I'm unhauling and I'm going to try and sell, and we'll see how that goes because it's difficult. So I'm not going to go in the order off my shelf because I think I've mixed them all up here, but these are going on my self-destruct list. And unlike everybody else where I'm going to hold on to them until the end of the year, I am just going to list them. And if they sell before I get to reading them, then so be it. And I think maybe if by the end of the year they're still listed and they haven't sold, I'll just bring them to my used bookstore, see which ones of them they will take, and then the rest will go to the library or a little free library. But let me show you what I'm going to try and sell right off the bat. So I have a second copy of Dead Souls. I read this last year, I think it was, and it was just okay. It's probably up there with one of my least favorite books of Russian literature that I've read. I didn't find it as humorous as I was hoping. I didn't find it as quirky as it's made out to be. It's about a guy who's mysteriously going around and he seems to be doing something with other people's dead souls. It sounds way more intriguing than I found it. I do have the copy that I read and annotated. I am going to hold on to that, but I'm just realizing I did not like this enough to want to read it in another translation. I was hoping that that was going to make it better. This is the Pavier and Velikonski edition. I did double check some parts of this with the translation that I was reading, and I just found that I wasn't going to like it any better, which is a shame. But hopefully, you know, that'll go to a good home and somebody who would love to have that secondhand. The other book that I'm going to get is The Dream of the Red Chamber. I am letting this go because I unfortunately didn't realize until after I bought it that this is an abridged edition. I do now have this book in a full-length edition, and that's what I would prefer. And I just don't see myself getting through that chunky book so quickly and then wanting to go to an abridged edition so fast that it's worth taking up space on my shelf. A book that I have read and am ready to let go of to make space for more is Drood. This is such a pity. This was on my most anticipated list. I was so thrilled when I got it on a TBR, I think 2 years ago now. And I had been talking about this book. I hyped it up to myself more than anything. It's a huge chunky book. It was good, but it was just overly long and it wasn't as satisfying as I wanted it to be. And by the end, I was like, okay, I'm glad I read that. It gave me more things to look forward to and to be interested in looking up information on Wilkie Collins and Charles Dickens. But at this point, with a little more space, I just can't see myself rereading it. So I feel like perfectly fine letting it go for somebody else to enjoy. This book, if you don't know, is basically a story told by Wilkie Collins about the mysterious happenings going on towards the end of Charles Dickens' life and how after an accident, he just starts to behave strange. Lots of odd characters become involved. There is some criminal activity going on by a potential underlord. And it's just a bizarre book, and it was interesting, but I don't know, somehow towards the end it just fell apart for me. And it's a long book for it to fall apart towards the end and just not keep me as gripped as I was hoping it was going to. It's definitely worth a try if you like Charles Dickens and Wilkie Collins, but for me, I'm ready to move on. Okay, off of my original self-destruct list was Assassin's Apprentice. I had mentioned in the previous video that I had bought this book when I was more interested in fantasy and thought I was going to want to get into high fantasy, and this is definitely one of the people they talk about. I'm realizing more now that that's not really what I want out of fantasy. I very rarely read just strictly fantasy or just pure fantasy novels nowadays. And I've heard that while Robin Hobb's writing is really good, that her books are really slow paced and take a lot to get into. And that just has not appealed to me in fantasy for a very long time. So I really don't think this is going to be the book or the series that I want to get to. Again, if I get to it before it's gone, so be it. If not, these are all books I'm not feeling like I would miss out on if they get unhauled unread, though a lot of these have been read by me. Okay, and so far I just have two more books real quick to share. One is Counsel Culture. I did read this earlier this year, last year. I read it last year. I don't know. This year has already seemed really long. And I actually really enjoyed this book. But when I was looking at my seashelves and just looking at the amount of space that I had, I was pretty realistic and I was like, what are the chances that I'm going to reread this book anytime soon? And if I'm not going to reread it soon, or really have any plans to reread it ever, do I really want it to continue to take up space on my bookshelves? And I realized, not really. Even if it ended up going to a little free library or a library book haul, I feel like it's a good book that people would get. And I don't want to only put in the little free libraries books that I don't like. So this is one that let's see what happens and I'll go from there. And let's see. The next book is a book who I've read one book by the author and I've already unhauled that book. And I have a second one by them, but I don't know. I'm so hesitant about this author now because I disliked that other book so much. And that is Edgar Huntley by Charles Brockden Brown. I read the Memoirs of Carwin the Billiquist, which sounded like a great book, and I hated the way he told the story. So this is definitely going on the, self-destruct list because it's one that I'm like, I either need to try it and unhaul it if I don't like it, or, honestly, at this point, I'm just okay letting him go. I just don't trust him anymore as an author. That first book was so bad. It was just so boring the way he told the story. Anyway, I'm not going to go on about that here. The other reason I stopped now, other than to just sort of get the books under control and tell you about them, is because I've reached a tricky point in organizing the bookshelves. So I've done this whole case of books here and the one next to it. And I'm now in the one that has this unicorn diamond painting. And I'm realizing that I'm at the point where in order to kind of shift this shelf down and make it so that I don't have the books double stacked, because that's my goal, is that I'm going to have to take this one shelf and spread it across these two shelves, which means everything on this shelf is going to have to go down a shelf, and that's going to have to continue all the way to the bottom of this bookcase. And so I realized, okay, that's going to take quite a bit of book shifting to do. And so before I totally explode the room with books and rearrange a whole bunch of things and have a whole bunch of stuff on the couch and this and that, let me just stop and check in with you guys real quickly about how it's going. So that's that. It's actually going pretty well. Doing those first two cases of books maybe took 15, 20 minutes. It didn't take that long at all. This next set I think is going to take a lot longer, and I still have to figure out somewhere to put my David Copperfield shrine, because if you look and see, this shelf right here is where it used to be, and I needed that space back. So hopefully I'm going to find another little nook that I'll be able to put him in, but I'll have a better idea if I have that space after I'm done sort of rearranging the next couple of shelves. But I think it'll work out. I kind of need to make the space for it is really what's going to happen. So we'll see how that goes. I'll come back once I've finished basically the next two cases. Hello and welcome back to my hot mess of a living room. I have some more books to share. Obviously, it's the next day. I think I was filming that like later in the evening, and at one point it got dark, and then I just stopped for the night. What did I get done since my last check-in? I basically worked on the next two cases, so the ones that are like here and here. And I had to kind of resort where books were on the shelves and assign some letters more space than others and all that. And it's all done. I moved around quite a few books, but I'm really happy with the way it's working out. And I actually changed the height of some of the shelves. And I don't know if you'll be able to tell, especially since I've changed the angle and I never gave you a full shot to begin with, but let me share with you some more of the books that I'm unhauling and let you know why. Okay, so the first book that I'm going to mention is the Mahabharata. This is actually a retelling by William Buck, and this is considered a work, or the original Mahabharata, like the full-length thing, is an Indian epic, and it is this is definitely an abridged retelling. It's sort of a condensation of the whole thing and retold in a form that would make it easier to understand. At one point, I really did want to read this because I want to read Upon a Burning Throne, which is based off of the Mahabharata, and I loved that this had beautiful pictures in it. I like that it's told like in storytelling form. It really does seem like a great work to read if you just want an introduction to what the basic story is being told in that, if you're not familiar with that tradition, which I am not. However, at this point, in light of all the reading projects that I have and everything I have going on, at this point, I just don't see my getting to that project anytime soon. And I'm honestly not sure how likely I am to restart that book series. I don't even own the books in the series. So anyway, moving on. I did pull off an extra copy that I had of Notre Dame de Paris, or the Hunchback of Notre Dame, which is the only way I could correctly say that word. Sorry. And yeah, I had this in multiple translations because I kept buying or finding free other translations of it. And I was struggling to find the translation I really wanted to read, which is the one, it's the Sturrock or Sturlock. I'll put his name on the screen. It's that translation. I did eventually find it and I do own that. And so I'm now willing to let go of the other translations because I couldn't find them online to see all the different translations in person. So I was trying to figure out which other translation I wanted to read. Anyway, I own the translation I want, so I can let go of the one that I don't. I had an extra copy of Human Bondage, which I've already read in, I think, Barnes & Noble's Classic Edition. And this was the first edition that I bought of it. I don't tend to buy a lot of the same copies of the book. But the reason I'm letting it go is because I do not like the font in here. I don't know how well you can see that. But to me, it just seems blurry, and not because I need glasses. I mean, I do need to wear glasses at this point to read. But I just did not like the font. I almost feel bad trying to sell this, but Penguin Classics sells it like this, so I don't know. If somebody really wants a Penguin Classic edition of it, they can get it. If not, it'll be unhauled eventually to somewhere else. Oh, here's one of the other editions of The Hunchback that I had, so I also don't need this translation, and I should tell you which ones these are. So this one is the Catherine Liu translation that's put out by Modern Library. And the other one, you could probably tell, was put out by Oxford World Classics and is translated by Kraisheimer, or maybe it's Kraisheimer. I'll put that up on the screen too. I also have Oliver Twist by Charles Dickens in this Norton Critical Edition. I listened to the audiobook a couple of years ago and enjoyed it enough that I knew I'd want to physically reread it. I've decided that I don't need to hold on to it because I do have a hardcover edition of Oliver Twist as part of my Dickens collection, which I bought well after I had this, so I'm willing to let this go and I can just read it in my hardcover edition, or if I want a paperback edition, I can get that out of the library just to read it in paperback. And then finally, I had an extra copy of Demon Copperhead. I wasn't sure whether or not I was going to have to let go of this. It took a long time before I decided to buy this edition used, because I was really wanting the book to come out in paperback, and it took, I feel like, years and years before this book was finally released in paperback in the US. And as soon as it was, I bought that. Typically, if I love a book, I want to keep it in hardcover, but I'm actually willing to let this go because I've read enough of Barbara Kingsolver at this point that I'm pretty sure whatever she writes, I'm going to enjoy and like, but I'm really doubting I'm going to find a 5-star read with her, and I'm highly doubting that this is going to be the book. So between this and Making Space, I'm willing to let this go. Like, I feel like there are now thousands of copies of this book in hardback, so I'm pretty sure if I want a hardcover edition of it again, I will be able to find one. And that's it for now. I need to go back to the shelves now, and I was wrong. I actually worked on this case and that case. I have these last two left to go. This entire case is going to end up being nothing but the letter S. All books whose title starts with the letter S, because apparently that's the most common letter to start your books with, or have as the second word in your book if you start the book with like the or a. Random facts. So yeah, I'm going to be working on that. I basically just have one shelf of books that I need to put over there that all start with S, and then I think it's going to be probably the UV books that are going to be moved over here with the WXYZ. So that shouldn't be too hard to do. I think I'm just going to remove the UVs. Oh, and then I have to shift all the T's down. But that should be pretty easy. So I think I'm just going to have to shift 2 shelves of books, UV and then the letter T, each down or over a bit. And then I should be able to put in the one shelf of books whose title starts with the letter S that I need to fit there. So I'm almost done. I should only have one check-in left. I feel like I don't have a lot of books here. I already bagged up the ones that I'm going to send off to a little free library. So I'm now starting to question, did I move the other ones and just forgot where I put them? Gosh, this was only last night. You'd think I would remember. Oh well. It's a mess here, and I'm gonna try and get it a little neater. I will check back in probably later today once I've finished up. Okay, I'm back. I'm done. I finished the last 2 cases of books. They are all set and settled, and surprisingly, I was able to just rearrange some of the books on the shelves. I didn't have to adjust shelf heights, and I didn't have to move like books to other bookcases or anything like that, because I forgot that amongst the S's, I actually had quite a few like gaps in rooms for enough books, and so that worked out well. So I have the Thousand Autumns of Jacob de Zoet and The Sound and the Fury are the only 2 books I ended up having to pull off of those last 2 cases. And why am I unhauling these? These at this point I've read, what is it, Cloud Atlas by David Mitchell, and really just wasn't thrilled by how that book was written. I think his writing is okay. I've actually read the first chapter or 50 pages of this book and have put it back on my shelf, and every time I think about coming back to it, I'm just not interested. So I just don't think he's for me, and I know I'm not going to pick him up anytime soon. So I was okay with letting this go because everything else there I really still wanted to give a try. The Sound and the Fury, this is actually just a random buy, and it's the most random cover of this book as well. I bought this for my son. He had a professor recommend this book to him, and I got it to give to him for Christmas. And I have this weird copy because, oddly enough, I really struggled to find a used or new edition of this, like any of the normal places. So I had to order it online, and this was the weird copy they sent me, just to have him open it for Christmas and let me know that he already had bought the book. So I tried to return it. They didn't. They just refunded my money. And then told me to keep the book. So as it goes sometimes with certain booksellers, but I'm okay with that. So I'm just gonna get rid of that book. So that is everything. The filming of this has been a hot mess. So hopefully I have put it together in a video that at least makes sense. So if you enjoyed this video, if you've liked seeing what I plan on unhauling, let me know, because even though this was supposed to be me curating my library, that's what this ended up being, was just an unhaul video. I did succeed in doing quite a bit. All of my bookshelves are organized how I want them now. I've prioritized the books that I want to read sooner than later so that they're all at eye level, kind of, sort of. Each shelf only has one letter on them, and there are no books behind books, so I can now see everything I own. And it was actually helpful to do that as well, because I realized that some books had also just fallen behind other books. And I was like, oh, that's why I couldn't find that copy. So that'll save me from accidentally rebuying something that I have that I just couldn't see because it had fallen behind the other books on the shelf. So I guess I did get a lot done. I mean, it took, the better part of 2 different days to get all this put together, and I'm pretty happy with the way my shelves are looking at this point. So let me know if you've done anything like this. Let me know what your tricks and tactics were, because I don't feel like I had anything to teach you. And I guess at some other point, I'll do a little free library unhaul where I'll go and I'll drop off all the books that I did decide to just put in little free libraries. And yeah, that's always fun to see like what's there, to see if there's anything I want to take, to see if I can match what I'm giving away with whatever feels like is the vibe of the little free library. I'm just going to say goodbye now, and I'll see you next time. Bye.